Hello. The following example is example 4.2.5 in your notes, specifically letter C. We're going to graph the function f of x equals 2 to the x minus 2 minus 1. Notice that this is still an exponential function because the exponent is where the variable is. In order to graph this, the first thing I want to do is I want to find its parent function. The parent function is the function that looks like this, but it's in its simplest form. That would be 2 to the x power. Well, 2 to the x power, the xy table, use a -1 for x, a 0, and a 1. And for the y, the reciprocal of the base here is 1 over 2, 0, so 2 to the 0 is 1, and 1, 2 to the first power is 2. Next we work with this -2. Notice that it's associated directly with the x. Now if you need to, you can kind of think of this as having a big parentheses around that. Remember from your transformations, whenever something is directly associated with the x, that it does the opposite of what it says. In this case, it means positive 2. In this case, we're going to add 2 to the x value. That means it moves 2 units to the right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the table for 2 to the x minus 2. Here's my xy table. And because we're moving to the right, that means that the y values are going to stay the same. So it's still 1/2, 0, and 2, but I'm going to add 2 to all these x values. So -1 plus 2 is 1, 0 plus 2 is 2, and 1 plus 2 is 3. Then we look at this -1. This -1 is outside of the exponent. Therefore, it's not directly associated with the x. Notice that this value moves the entire function down one value, or one unit. Therefore, you're going to take this table and subtract 1 from every y value. So this is going to give me the table for 2 to the x minus 2 minus 1. So here's my xy table. Notice that my x values will all stay the same from the previous table, but 1/2 minus 1 is -1/2. 0 minus 1 is -1. And 2 minus 1 is 1. Sorry, I messed up over here. This was not 0, should have been a 1. My apologies. That makes this to be 0. Sorry. I had a feeling I was making a mistake there. Let me just kind of mark those in. There you go. This is why you don't do math in pen. Now, because there's a -1 out here, it does have a horizontal asymptote, but the horizontal asymptote in this case is y equals -1. So, draw your horizontal line here at y equals -1. Then plot these 3 key points. Right 1, down 1/2. 2, 0, and 3, 1. Now, hopefully by now you can see what this function is kind of going to look like. It's going to start over here. It's going to slowly start going up. Then it's going to go up, then up, and it's going to keep going up. There you go. There's this function. Now, we want to be careful about one thing here. Let's say that instead of this, we had a minus out front. If I had a minus out front, I would actually need a -2 to the x power table in here as well. That negative out front, it changes the y value. So the x values would all stay the same. And I'm working with the original table here. I multiply all the y values by -1. So that makes that a -1/2, -1, and -2. And then I do exactly the same thing that I did over here. So -2 to the x minus 2 will give me the xy table. The y's will stay the same, so -1/2, -1, and -2. But these x values I add 2 to. So -1 plus 2 is 1, 0 plus 2 is 2, and 1 plus 2 is 3. And again, this -1. So -2 to the x minus 2 minus 1. Again, xy table, but this time my x's stay the same. So 1, 2, and 3. And I subtract 1 from all these values. -1/2 minus 1 is a -3/2. -1 minus 1 is -2. And -2 minus 1 is -3. Now notice that my horizontal asymptote will stay the same. And I can plot these points now. Right 1 down 3/2. Right 2 down 2. And right 3 down 3. Now be careful, do not try to make this a line. There is no exponential that looks like a line. What's happening here is that negative in front flipped the exponential. So notice that this blue line is going up from left to right, but that negative flipped it and made it go down from left to right. So the domain for the red function here is actually -infinity to infinity, but the range will actually change. The range here will be -infinity to -1.